So this presentation relates specifically to the draft placemaking guidance for householder developments. The householder guidance can be used for all types of householder development proposals, such as extensions or alterations, and the overarching purpose is to facilitate the placemaking aspirations of the council and achieve its key objective of raising standards of design. So this updated document, together with the placemaking guidance for residential development and guidance for infill and backland development, will provide SPG in support of policies in the Swansea LDP, and once adopted will be used in the determination of planning applications. So looking first at the importance of placemaking. Placemaking is a holistic approach to the planning and design of new developments and spaces. It is a concept focused on positive outcomes, with the aim being to create high quality development and public spaces. There's also increasing evidence of both the physical and mental well-being benefits to people that well-designed places can provide. Placemaking applies at all scales, requires smart, multidimensional and innovative thinking, and should be considered at the earliest stage possible. So the updated document reflects the changes made to national policy that have occurred since the original document was adopted. So in particular, it has been updated to align with amendments to national policy, national planning guidance, and the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which is about improving social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being of Wales. The Act, which was introduced in 2015, requires public bodies to implement 5 key ways of working, which include thinking about the long-term impact of decisions, working collaboratively, involving a diversity of the population, taking an integrated approach and preventing persistent problems such as climate change. So whilst these are strategic aims, they also feed down to development at all scales, including smaller scale householder schemes. Last year, we also saw the launch of the Placemaking Charter Wales, which Swansea is a signatory of, which has been developed by Welsh Government and the Design Commission for Wales in collaboration with the Placemaking Wales Partnership. So this is a multidisciplinary group representing professions and organisations working within the built and natural environment. So the Charter outlines 6 placemaking pledges that cover a range of considerations that contribute to establishing and maintaining good places. So these principles are involving the local community in the development of proposals, choosing sustainable locations for development, prioritising walking, cycling and public transport, creating inclusive, well-defined and safe streets and public places, and promoting a sustainable mix of uses to promote vibrant places. And then finally, valuing and respecting the positive, distinctive qualities and identities of places. So the current householder design guide, highlighted on the slide now, forms part of the existing residential design guidance that the council has been using for a number of years. The infill and backland design guide and the residential design guide were adopted in 2014, and the householder design guide back in 2008. So fundamentally, the purpose of the 3 SPG documents, all of which have been updated, is to set out the expected placemaking approach for residential developments at all scales. So just quickly looking at the reflections on the current SPG, the existing design guide has been used to negotiate and assess many schemes in all areas of Swansea and has been well received by developers, architects, designers and agents. Important to note is that the document has been given significant weight by planning inspectors when dismissing appeals. And as previously mentioned, the documents need to be updated to reflect the changes made to national policy and guidance, in particular to align with the amendments to national planning guidance, including the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and also to align with the updates to active travel, green infrastructure and sustainable drainage. So the draft amended placemaking guidance for householder development, as seen here, builds upon the current design guide and has been updated rather than fundamentally changed to incorporate learning from several years of use and to link into the current policy and legislation. So the householder SPG focuses on householder development. So this is typically extensions and modifications to existing homes, and it provides applicants with the detail needed to understand how the council will implement the LDP's placemaking policies. There's also some minor categories of householder development for alterations or extensions that do not require planning permission because of PD rights allowed under national planning legislation. It is encouraged, however, to apply the same design principles to these schemes as is set out in this document. There will also be instances such as in conservation areas or within the Gower AONB where more restrictive PD rights apply, and this document should be used in conjunction with conservation area review documents and the Gower AONB design guide. So importantly, placemaking applies at all scales in all places. So this ranges from larger schemes of several hundred homes down to smaller scale householder developments. Appropriate householder development offers opportunities for extensions and alterations to be made to dwellings in a manner that respects the character of the local area, enhances a sense of place, and also protects the well-being of neighbours. Fundamentally, this enables householders to remain within their communities and adapt their homes to meet their changing needs over time. So the document sets out guidance for different types of householder development and provides key design principles for each of the house types. The document, it sets out the overarching placemaking requirements, fundamentally that placemaking principles apply at all scales of development. The document has also been updated to address biodiversity as a key consideration, placing emphasis on the Section 6 duty, which requires a net benefit for biodiversity enhancements. Householder proposals should seek to minimise the impacts upon existing biodiversity, habitats and green infrastructure networks, as well as introduce measures proportionate to the scheme to enhance natural features. So, for example, enhancement measures may include green roofs, back boxes, or retained and enhanced landscaping. Also, in accordance with PPW, which places new emphasis on delivering multifunctional benefits through the provision of integrated green infrastructure, the guidance also explains how the concept of GI at all scales can be addressed. The starting point in every site should be to work within the existing constraints and opportunities. And from a householder perspective, GI will be in the form of on-plot features such as hedge boundaries, rain gardens and green roofs. And also under legislation in Wales, sustainable drainage systems are required for surface water for all new developments of more than one dwelling or where the construction area is 100 square metres or more. So based on these requirements, a vast majority of householder proposals do not need to consider SUDs. However, even if works do not require SUDs, plot level SUDs features are encouraged to minimise the risk of flooding. So the guidance remains fundamentally unchanged in terms of general amenity considerations, with the document setting out criteria to ensure that proposals do not unacceptably impact on the quality of life of occupants of neighbouring houses and gardens. So the key considerations relating to residential amenity include avoiding the 3 O's. So that's overbearing, overshadowing and overlooking. So for example, the 45-degree test can be used to assess the degree of sunlight and daylight lost and shadow cast by a proposed extension. It also sets out minimum separation distances to avoid overbearing or overlooking, for example. There is also a presumption that new development proposals should retain an acceptable sized and shaped garden for the dwelling. The document is then split into a number of subsections to provide specific guidance for different types of development proposals. For example, there is guidance for extensions and alterations to detached, semi-detached, terraced and bungalow properties. The general content and thrust of the design guidance remains unchanged, with the updated document setting out clear guidance relating to a range of development proposals. So, for example, extensions should be of an acceptable scale. They should be read as subordinate to the original house and should respect the form of and should not upset the proportions of the existing dwelling. The guidance is particularly important to help residents improve and alter their homes to respond to changing circumstances and allows them then to remain within their communities. The document then provides guidance for the likes of annexes and ancillary accommodation and works to roofs, with the guidance setting out key criteria that development proposals should follow to ensure development is of an appropriate scale, form and appearance. A section is also included on enhancement schemes, which provide opportunities to effectively refresh a property. So we are noticing a significant increase in the number of submissions for comprehensive contemporary renovations, and this approach is largely welcomed on the basis that a holistic approach is taken, so where all parts present a coherent character and appearance to the house, and the enhancement scheme enhances the character of the locality. The document then goes on to set out guidance for other minor alterations, such as raised surfaces, balconies and retaining walls, garages and outbuildings, and the provision of safe access and parking arrangements. Again, the guidance aims to help householders improve their homes in a manner which respects the character of the property and mitigates against any negative impacts on neighbouring occupants. So that is a very brief overview of the document, the updated placemaking guide for householder development. So this slide just looks at the next steps. So the draft SPG is subject to a minimum 6-week period of consultation, which allows the public, stakeholders and other interested parties to submit comments and contribute to the final version of the SPG. The aim is to ensure that there is a broad consensus of support for the objectives. The webinar will be uploaded onto the website for public viewing, and the closing date for all comments is the 13th of August 2021. It's then anticipated that the SPG can be adopted in autumn of this year. So a question and answer session will now follow, and we'll stop the recording for this to occur.